Welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast. Here is Munir Lazouzi from easymedicaldevice.com. And today we'll talk about software as a medical device. So you know that when we are developing a software or a medical device mainly, we have to have also all the documentation that are showing how you have developed the software and how you can show to an authority that you are compliant. And so today we'll talk about that. And I have with me Anindya Mookerjea, which is the CEO of Scube-technologies. And Anindya will help us to understand more about this topic. So Anindya, welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast.
Hi, Munir. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me again.
Great.
Thanks.
Yeah, last time we talked about our project that we had together, which is the SmartEye. And today we will talk specifically about SaMD development, design and development, and I hope you can help us on that. Can you just maybe quickly for the people that are listening, introduce yourself or tell me exactly more about you?
Well, in one word or in one sentence, I've got 20 years in SaMD. So here is an opportunity for you to extract as much knowledge as you can, for the viewers in your channel.
Great. So Anindya, the elements that we have is sometimes that we have some companies or people that are, as I'm saying, always like waking up in the morning and say, oh, let's make a software as a medical device, or let's make a software. And usually they discover later that this is a medical device. And then the question is, what should we do on this and that? So mainly when we are developing a software as a medical device or a software that is a medical device, what are, if I can say, for the companies that are doing this software, what are normally the standards or the elements that they have to follow for the development or for making that the software is really made correctly for medical devices?
Sure. To ensure that you are design and developing the software in the right way, it's very important that you set up a good platform and have a right framework. So thankfully, for the medical device, we have a harmonized standard, which is ISO 13485.
Yeah.
And it is not specific for software. However, it gives you a very good set of, the way you want to do. So the set of processes, procedures, templates. And also, it appreciates that if your medical device is a software or, it is there to help the intended purpose of the hardware, then 62304 is a recommended standard. So I think 62304 is the next one. So it all starts from the 13485 platform, but then you need something which is specific to the software lifecycle. And IEC 62304, it is quite popular and the most popular standard for the software lifecycle. So that's one of the recommendation.
So software, this is popular for software as medical devices, not for software in general, but really medical devices in that case.
Yeah, software as a medical device, or there is another term which is software in a medical device. So
Okay.
if the software is not a standalone software, this is how we define the software as a medical device. But if the software is existing within a part of a hardware or a system, and it's basically there to fulfill the intended purpose of that entire system, then it's basically the software in a medical device, or it's popularly known as embedded software, or it is also firmware. So we have different definitions or different terminologies, but it is basically the software in a medical device and software as a medical device. These are the two top categories where 62304 can be well implemented.
And 62304, we had already an episode made on the podcast about it. But today, what the objective is really to focus on one of the elements, maybe of the design, which is design file or design documentation, design dossier. So 62304, does it explain to you how to develop this design file, or it is the ISO 13485 that you have to use for that? So is there really the kind of one that is leading the other?
Yeah, sure. So, 13485 is the overall quality management system, which does not have a focus on software, but 62304 is the standard for software. And it does tell you step by step, the processes and the different activities or the task very systematically and very quite in a detailed way, that how you should start thinking about software, how you should start writing the software, how should you test the software, so how you should design and develop the software. Not only that, but how you should maintain the software, how you should update or upgrade the software, how should you release the software, how you should manage the defects out of the software. If something goes wrong, how you should, if you undergo a problem, if you face a problem, then how you should resolve that problem. And it's also touch upon the how you should think about the risk. So obviously, it's a separate topic of risk of the software, but depending on if you want me to speak. But yeah, it's an overall dedicated platform where you are quite safe. You feel a lot of confident in designing and developing the software.
Yeah, and so as we said, we have this ISO 13485, which is mainly the management system, the quality management system, and inside there is a 62304. So when you are going through this certification with a notified body or certification body, do you need to have a specific certification for 62304, or is it like embedded, if I can say, on your ISO 13485, or how is it working?
Yeah, sure. A standard question. So everyone think of this that, do we have to get audit of 62304? Well, the answer is no. So far, it's not an auditable standard. However, it's so much popular that if I'm an auditor, and if you say, if a person A says that, well, I have got the best, processes and activities, in my product. I've got a best design file, and I have done a lot of work. But if it does not mention about 62304, then, the auditor, I as an auditor, will be more curious to know each and everything, because then I will have an apprehension about the work, on the comparison, if there is a second person who talks about all these processes and activities and tasks that he has done,
Yeah.
and just say that, well, we have referred to 62304, that gives a confidence to the auditor that, well, the team already knows what they were doing, and it's quite standard, and the set of questions and answers becomes very easy and very standard.
No, it's clear. And I cannot remember, I have to check again. I can't remember if IEC 62304 is an harmonized standard or not for the moment.
Not for the moment.
Okay. So mainly, and I agree with you, mainly each time myself, I'm auditing companies, I'm doing internal audits for companies. And each time we talk about the software, the question is, which standards have you used for the development of the software? Because you cannot use a standard development like a hardware, because the software is different, as you said. So there are a lot of things that may be different. So having a combination of your ISO 13485 plus the way to develop and to manage lifecycle management of software through IEC 62304 is the best combo, the best strategy, and the best thing that you may do. So in terms of that, like any medical device development, you have to create a design file which shows to people what are the inputs, what are the outputs, what are the tests, the verification, the validation. Here, if I can say, it's like we talk about the waterfall process, but there is another term that we call the Agile process for development of device. So in terms of the design file, can we say it's exactly similar as a hardware device, or there are really differences here?
Great question, Munir. So see, there are two approaches, and we started our discussion with two different categories of software, or two different types of software, SaMD and SiMD. Now, when we talk about SaMD, it's a standalone software, means it will have its own design file, because you need to submit it, separately, either on its own, or even if it is, part of the whole medical device system, but it should have its design file on its own. However, SiMD, which is the firmware or the embedded software, it is a part of a hardware of a system. It basically gets involved with the design history file of the hardware. So there are two different types of design history file when you talk about the software types in 62304. Now, when you approach these two design files, more or less the elements are same. However, since firmware is a part of a bigger system, so there are some reusability, like they can be the part of the risk file, they can part of the human factor file, so on and so forth. However, when you talk about an independent SaMD design file, then you have to think most of the things maybe separately. However, that standalone software can be also integrating or interface with a bigger hardware. For example, an injection pen or an inhaler, which is Bluetooth enabled or IoT technology enabled. If it is interacting with this SaMD standalone, then of course, there is a reusability. Which we can talk about, in a different day probably, because it's itself is a very big topic. But yeah, these are the two different approaches, two different design files, and I can talk about it in a bit detail if you allow me today. But more or less, we have two different files, two design files.
Yeah, so I think it's important, yeah, that we have an understanding of this SaMD and SiMD. Because yeah, it's two different types of devices, two different types of files also, and as you said, the SiMD has two type of files: the file for hardware, the file for software. So you have to manage twice for more things, if I can say, related to that. So in terms of this creation of the SaMD file or SiMD file, so sometimes we have, and I have that with my some companies that are calling me for helping them. So I have some companies that are calling me, but the software is near to be on the market, or it is already on the market, and they maybe got an authority email saying, "Oh, guys, you are a medical device, so you show us that you are good, etc." So, I mean, they have made the development, but they haven't followed the 62304 or 13485 or any of those. I'm not saying they are bad companies. It's just that they had no knowledge. They didn't know. As I said, sometimes you are waking up in the morning, say, "Oh, let's do this," but you don't really know that there are some rules to follow, and you learn that by, it's painful, but you learn that by experience. So in that case, if this company is calling me, can I still help them and create the design file while this product is already on the market?
Yes, see, to answer it, I'll take a step back, Munir. So I also heard you asking that, when is the best time, for when do we start the design file? So as soon as you have an idea of building this software, and as soon as you are hungry to understand the definition, as soon as you want to define its intended purpose or intended users on the intended environment, that's the time you kick off your design file. So we talk about design file maybe on day zero, where you are defining the software. Definition of software is important because two top things that you do or you want to achieve there is the definition of software, whether it's a SaMD or SiMD, because that really triggers that whether it will be a part of the design file of the system or it will have an independent file. So that's point number one. Point number two, what is the safety classification, right? Okay. So whether it's a class A, class B, class C. Class C is which can do a permanent injury or a death. Class B, injury which is not acceptable, and class A, no injury or injury which is acceptable, right? So that's a standard definition as per 62304. Now this really defines your number of deliverables or type of deliverables. For example, if you are class A, you may not be doing the detailed design of the software, at every element, or and if you are class C, you have to do a lot of detailed design and you have to do thorough testing if it's class C. So it's kind of proportionate that if it's higher risk, then you have to do more. It becomes more stringent. So it's very important. Now, to come back to your second question, that if they are late, so well, it's still never late till you are not touched upon by the audit, or even if you are audited and it's a initial stage or stage one where you get to know that, hey, you had to do so many things in terms of software design file, you haven't. So yes, you can still do it. So three of the important activities that we suggest in the software as a medical device or software in a medical device are safety, which is risk,
Okay.
Security, which is cyber security, and the human factors, which is also usability, right? So these are the three the different milestone that you want to achieve, and these are the three different visions that you should have with your software. So the first thing is you should see that whether you have risk assessed your software, whether you have security assessed your software, you understand what are the different vulnerabilities. And third is, have you touched upon the user experience or the usability or the human factors? Now, this is the first step where, taking these three into consideration, you start doing a gap analysis. And obviously, uh, there is a software life cycle which all starts from the, have you got a right planning, end-to-end planning, which we call as software design plan? Have you got the different levels of requirement defined? You can call, and is it like a part, or is it traced back from the product requirement specification or user requirement specification? Then have you got your software architecture design in place? Have you got your detailed design in place? Have you got different levels of verification testing, unit testing, integration testing, system testing? And have you planned your release? Do you know how you want to handle the change request, if any, within a pre-release or post-release, from the market? How are you going to handle the complaints or feedbacks? So these are the step-by-step elements, or the activities that we do. However, if you start late, you really have to quickly do the gap analysis. And one of the most important thing is the risk assessment, that how much you have done and what are the gaps. And then obviously we can always retrofit few of the activities. But the downside is that if the software is already made, and the good design strategy was not made, like for example, it is a class C, which can even kill the patient if something goes wrong. Then you haven't done the component design, and you have not strategized how you will perform the testing of those components. So these are the downside of starting late. However, we can always take it back, and see that what are the gaps, and we can always strategize. So it's well, late is not desirable, but if it is late, it's not the end of the world. You can always get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose that even if you are not following the 62304, as you are making a project, you still have some meeting minutes, you still have some maybe decisions that were made on emails. So the idea is to rebuild this history and to see exactly what are, for example, some requirements that were asked for the software, maybe by some customers, etc., to design, to make the user needs, for example, at the beginning. So I think there is still possibilities from companies to tell us why they have this or why they have that in their software, so that we can really build the documents for that. But one thing that you touched on is also cyber security. I think it's also something that is important under SaMD or SiMD. We talked a lot about that also within the regulatory affairs part. So in terms of cyber security, so is this something that you recommend to do internally, or is it a external company should do that? Or what is the strategy that companies should follow for just starting this process, not maybe knowing about it, but starting this process?
Sure. In a very short a way of explaining, or quick way of explaining cybersecurity, is that it's not just the product security that the auditors will look for. It's the end-to-end security. And cybersecurity is not just, for example, doing a penetration testing of the software, but it is much more than that. There are a lot of other elements, starting from the documentation security, and there are around 8 to 10 parameters, on top of just doing the penetration testing. So definitely one of the best idea is to always outsource it, because you may not have the experts who understand the cybersecurity, as well as to get it from, let's say, the MDR or the MDCG requirement of cybersecurity, or AMI also suggests a lot of good requirements or the ways of implementing. So I always suggest to get the expert advice, if you don't have the complete team. However, it's always good to have someone who understands the security within the company, if it is a big company. But if it is a small and medium company, sometimes it becomes difficult to hire a full-time security expert. So in that case, you can always take advices from the experts.
Exactly. So, I mean, as we said, this part is also part of the risk analysis. Mainly, you have to avoid that anybody can penetrate your device and change something inside. Or, I mean, you see those science fiction movies or those movies where they can control your pacemaker or this kind of thing. So this is reality. So you have really to have those tests and those things available to show that really you have made everything possible to avoid this kind of situation. And this test should be included inside your design file, because mainly first you go with your risk analysis, you identify this potential risk of penetration, and then you do this test to verify that there is no risk, and then you reduce the risk, and then you are safe, I can say, for any auditors to ask you about this question.
It's a good point. Just quickly, so security should not be, stay away. Should not stay away from the risk, and it's basically two sides of one coin. And there is a intersection of two circles where there is a common part where security and safety and the risk should be balanced out well. So you should know that if safety is more and security is less, or the vice versa. So there is a patient versus the regulation balance. So there is a lot of idea and the discussion that goes around in that topic. So I think safety or the risk manager and the security expert should be working hand in hand. That's one of the.
I agree. And mainly not only for software, also for hardware. Risk management is really the most important document that you can have. Sure. Okay, so I think we covered most of the things. We try to not go technically, if I can say, inside all the elements of design file. But we wanted also to explain to you maybe what kind of solution we are proposing, because as I've said to you, so we are working with Scube, so with Anindya, we are with the software SmartEye, which is an electronic quality management system. So for these specific requirements on design file, so what is SmartEye? I mean, how can people, if I can say, use SmartEye for designing their design file directly?
So SmartEye is very much focused with the software as a medical device and software in a medical device. And it basically blends 62304, 4971, and 62366 on top of 13485. Now, and SmartEye actually facilitates or helps you to create your design file in Agile and while maintaining your compliance with all these software standards. It gives you the way to create your requirements in the backlog and then use it per sprint. So you don't have to deal with all your requirements like a waterfall. So how much requirement it's ready, it then trace it to the design and to the test, and the different levels of verification testing can be created in SmartEye framework. And one of the very important feature or functionality what SmartEye provides is it calculates your set of deliverables or documents depending on your safety class. So if you are class A versus class B or class C, or even if today you are class A and then tomorrow you becomes in future you become class B, that switching, all of these are calculated in SmartEye. So SmartEye gives you the framework as per the risk classification, and it gives you a lot of flexibility in doing the verification testing, and it offers you the defect management lifecycle. So the entire product lifecycle management in Agile can be done in SmartEye.
Yeah, no, I've seen also that one of the features that I've seen is that, for example, you arrive at the beginning, you try to create your project, and it tells you, is it a hardware or software plus hardware, etc., or hardware only, or software only, etc. And then from there, you are just populating few information about your software, and then it's creating the full template or full framework of the design file. And then, as you said, you just have to go through that, and it's like a checklist. You say you need this, you need that, you need that, or you can justify to remove some of the files. But mainly, this is the files that are expected to be seen. So for you, then no need to think anymore, because when you go to the 62304, first they say, ask you what is the classification of your device, class A, B, C. And then when you go inside, it tells you this chapter is for class A, B, C. This chapter is for class B and C. This chapter is for class C also. So mainly the idea here is that everything is now directly provided to you in SmartEye. So there is no need anymore to, if I can say, think, should I do this, should I do that, because everything is there. So it's really something that, I mean, I suppose is you are trying really to develop to help companies to really make it easier for them to from start to the end then.
Absolutely, Munir. And I think you covered it very well. It actually helps you in defining your entire system. If you're only software, it gives you the only software design file. And in that, it takes care of ABC, as I said. Switching is always available and possible. And if it is a part of a hardware firmware, then it gives a separate design file which contains a hardware firmware design file. Also, it gives you the technical file. So if you have a system technical file or just a SaMD technical file, it gives you the entire framework of the technical file as per MDR, or the design history file as per the the 510K submissions. So and specific to hardware plus firmware, specific to SaMD software. So all of that is very, very easy doing in SmartEye.
Yeah, no, great. So I think maybe a last question. So what kind of advice for companies that are developing this kind of SaMD? Is there something that you see and you think, oh, they are always making this mistake, or this is the thing that maybe they have first to look at because it's important, etc. So is there kind of good practices that maybe you can advise the audience? Because I think you have also seen that a lot with maybe a lot of companies, and you say if they do that at the beginning, or if they avoid that, then they can be on the right way.
Sure. A great question. So I think one of the biggest mistake that SaMD design development company they do is working in silo and working independently as just the software team. We have to always appreciate that this software is basically the medical device. It has an intended purpose which solves a medical. It has a medical purpose, right? And probably the end users are the patients or the HCPs, right? Now, the very important thing here is to come closer and work as a team. So it's not the software design developer testers, but along with them, you have to involve the patient safety. You have to involve the risk manager. You have to involve the compliance, and the most important QARA. Our breed of people, and it's very important that these all team come closer. And one of the initiative that you and I took in designing developing SmartEye was this, that all the team should come close and should work, because there is always a discrepancy of a technical world of software who probably don't understand the medical device. Then there is a medical device experts who probably don't understand the technicality of software, and then the compliance, the QRA, they binds everything, or the patient safety or PRRC, they bind the whole group, the whole system. I think they all work very separately, and there is always a waste of ideas and the wasteful ways, or they reinvent the wheels. They probably do the same thing again and again because they are not closely working together. So I think this is one of the thing. If company and especially the bigger one who are diversified across the entire world, I think this can be a game changer. And SmartEye, which is available on the cloud, I think this is one of the best solution that can offer to the even the bigger companies who can have their ways of working together. So it bring the world a different world and make it one world. So it's making the world closer.
Yeah, no, it's great. So thank you for that. So where can people follow up then, or check what is SmartEye or Scube-technologies, or follow up maybe with you if they have any question about SaMD?
So if they know you, they can reach out to SmartEye because it's your tool as well. So and you are so popular, Munir. So that's a good news. But I'm also the managing director and the partner in Easy Medical Device. So I'm also the UK responsible person in Easy Medical Device. So it's easy to find me. And they have to do is either find you or me in LinkedIn, or we are in different social channels. And it's easy to find. And our website is www.scube-technologies.com. And yeah, it's easy to find, and we are always available all 7 days, 24 hours. We are young talented team, and we are very excited to help the medical device companies.
Yeah, and I will put anywhere the links on the show notes, so don't hesitate to go there. And Anindya, you can also, for SmartEye, you can also propose some testing, some demo that you can provide to the people.
Yes, we are always available for the free of cost demo. So we welcome, for any such demand and request. It will be very nice, and we ensure that it's a very learning session. So we just don't give the demo of our platform, but we also talk about the different concept, because we feel that we can really change it. And our intention is not to just sell this platform, but also to make the difference of how to bring the agile, getting implemented along with 62304, things like that. So we are the team of expert in Scube and Easy Medical Device, and we can really together help companies in achieving the compliance.
Great. So don't hesitate to contact Anindya or myself, and I can direct you to the demo link or to the website so that you can get to that. But yeah, don't hesitate to have this demo to learn more about how the SmartEye is working, and to check if this is really something that can help your company to then have a software that is helping for electronic quality management system, so to develop your quality management system standard, but also to anything about development, life cycle management, CAPA, non-conformances, supplier management, etc. So there are many modules inside that can help you for this kind of thing. Okay, Anindya, so really thank you for your help. I hope now people have a great understanding of what is a design file for a software, SaMD or SiMD. And then if there is any question, we reach out to you directly on LinkedIn or to myself. Okay,
sure, absolutely. It's a pleasure. Thank you very much again for inviting me.
Thank you. Wish you a nice day then.
Yes, thank you too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.